So these, here's our unallowable reminders. So feel free to take a screenshot. This information will, of course, be on our website. And if any of it requires further explanation, we are always here to go over that with you. With that, we will go ahead and begin with our first library. So I'd like to introduce San Diego Public Library. You guys just let Lisa know when she can go to the next slide.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Francesca De Vera, pronounced she, Aya. I'm the Youth and Engagement Coordinator for the San Diego Public Library System. We had a blast with summer lunch this year. It was our first return to summer lunch since the pandemic. And joining with me are my wonderful colleagues, Jessica Buck at our College Rolando branch and Claudia Apodaca at our Skyline Hills branch. And shortly, they'll be discussing the wonderful programming and community engagement they did at their lunch sites. So for San Diego Public, we had 4 library lunch sites. We had 2 libraries facilitating pop-up visits. We had weekly lunch service Monday through Friday, June 20th through August 11th, and our food sponsor was San Diego Unified School District. This summer, we served over 3,700 meals, and we were programming rock stars, 216 enrichment programs that over 5,000 patrons attended. This was only my second grant application, so if you're nervous about it, if you never applied for a grant before, the team here makes it super easy. I highly suggest it. It's a really impactful program to help curb summer hunger. We went above and beyond. We also applied for innovation, and we did a county-wide awareness campaign that included bus benches, trolleys, billboards, water bill inserts, social media, and flyers, and this marketing increased attendance at the San Diego Unified sponsored sites by 10%. Join me next week and I'll tell you more about it. We also had a shuttle service for families who were in house. And like I said, join me next week. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to next slide, please. To my colleague, Jessica Beck. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So, yes, I'm Jessica Beck, and I am at the College Rolando Library. And this was my first time ever doing summer lunch at all. And this is my first time working in a library that offered it. So, I had no idea at all what to expect. And it was amazing. It was a lot of work, but it was amazing. The number one comment I got from staff was that it was such a rewarding experience for them as individuals. So, I highly recommend it. Um, and we found that this program was incredibly important to not only support those in our community experiencing food insecurity, but it also helped bring our community together. We created opportunities for learning through daily enrichment activities during the lunch hour. It's part of the grant, but we would have done it anyways because why not? And it's such like the people are already there. We might as well try to educate them and provide services. So these enrichment activities kept them engaged and also helped educate them on important topics and then let everyone socialize together. Our programs were Monday through Friday, and we had a schedule that really helped so that everyone knew what to expect when they came. Mondays, we had a movie and an activity or a craft. Tuesdays, we had a variety of educational shows and workshops. Wednesdays normally would be story time, so we just made it the storytelling day. Really worked out. Thursdays is when we had community organizations come to the library during the summer lunch hour to give workshops or lead an activity. And it's a long week at that point, so Friday was board games and chess, keeping it easy. So for Thursdays, it was a great opportunity for us to utilize relationships we already had with community groups and then try to grow some more. And some of our partners were like educational nonprofits, art studios, community groups that actually met at our library, even theaters. In some of the photos, you can see we had like a manga workshop. We had a theater come in and do a performance. And the super cute photo with the little boy holding up the paper, our community group came in and talked about what is a community group? Why are they important? Why are they there? And then talked about what makes a community and how you can support your community. So it was just the best. And we also had books through the grant to help our families build their own home libraries and kind of spread that literacy. So best practices, lots of training, and making sure everyone knew what they were supposed to do. At our location, I just made 4 core roles during the lunch hour, and that helped everyone not be stressed about what they had to do and stay organized. And throughout, we had a partnership with our city environmental services to help make sure that it was also sustainable and that we were supporting, our green bins and making sure nothing was going to waste. The lessons learned now going forward is start planning early and promote as soon as you can. Figure out other sites near you, communicate with them, see how you can support each other. And if you have the capacity to do summer lunch and normal programming, do it. For us, summer lunch replaced programming for the most part because it was a time commitment of like 10:30 a.m. to 1:30 Monday through Friday. But again, super rewarding, and I highly recommend it, and I will let my next colleague, so next slide, talk about everything they did at Skyline.
Hello, everyone. I'm Claudia Podaca. I'm the Youth Services Librarian from Skyline Hills Library. We had a blast. Was also my first year with implementing this program. I did have a lot of questions, to be honest, but we had a very good outcome. We had a 5-day weekly theme that was Monday through Friday. And so one of our prerequisites was to involve the community in our collaboration with the San Diego Environmental Services. And so this gave us an idea of implementing this program for our weekly theme. So Mondays was gathered for the sustainable program in which we taught the children the importance of taking care of our earth, taking care of our communities, taking care of our library. And so they started learning what recycling was. And so this in June, the children really caught on and then also encouraged the families to do this at home. So Tuesdays we did a STEM day. Wednesdays we did breakdancing. These are the new trendy things that we do for the library. And Thursdays we involve our performers. And Fridays we had an easy day of family movies and game day, which encouraged civic engagement for our community. We also work with our collaborators, our community partners. One thing that really helped my location, Skyline Hills, was the promotions that Francesca did with the park benches. I had a lot of families coming in telling me that they came in because they saw the bench signs. So that was a huge thing that helped Skyline Hills, and also the rest of our libraries who implemented this program. We utilized the summer reading program, the system-wide program, to build home libraries with the book giveaways that we did. We implemented the summer reading. We implemented other things that we had with community partners like the
Claudia,
gardeners.
I'm just
Hello.
interrupting. Yep, just interrupting. You're at your 1 minute warning. So don't want to
Thank
rush
you.
you, but if you have one more
Thank
minute.
you. One of the outcomes that we learned is that we learn to continue our community partners and our collaborations. That was very highly for us. That was a great outcome, and I would recommend this program to those who are thinking about it. Yes, do your early programming, do your early planning for this, and yes, I would recommend it. Thank you all.
Thank you, San Diego.
Hello, everyone. My name is Robert Shoup. I'm the director at Palmdale City Library. That is our outreach vehicle. We call it the Nomobile, KNOW. And happy to be a part of this program today. I feel like I should introduce myself a little bit because it plays into what I'll be covering. little about me and my philosophy. I've always been an outward facing librarian, if you will, since I got into the profession, believing that we need to get out and into the community. Marketing and spreading the word about what libraries have to offer is a great passion of mine. I want there to be a buzz in the community about what's happening in the library. A little bit about Palmdale City Library in the city of Palmdale. We have just one building, about 12,000 square feet. Yes, we could use a larger one. That's another topic for another day. Population is about 160,000. We have 16 staff members head count. I arrived in this position in June of 2017 after working as a dean of library services in a community college library system in Arizona, the director of a county library system in Arizona, and the director of a city library system in Utah. During the first year after I got here, going back to my first point, I visited the superintendent's office of Palmdale School District twice and left my card with his administrative assistant and expressed my enthusiasm to meet with him at some point. I learned quickly that Palmdale School District, about 28,000 students, is the main district. There are other districts, but the largest, and that's the largest and the one that we work most directly with or have the greatest potential impact on. My my visits there eventually led to his inviting me and members of my management team to a meeting with him and members of his district leadership team. And that laid the foundation for many partnership opportunities since then, including lunch at the library. Sometime in early 2018 is when I first heard about the state library's summer lunch at the library program, and I was immediately interested, seeing that it had fantastic potential to benefit our community and to help get the word out about our wealth of library programs and services. We like to think ourselves as small but mighty. I next connected with the folks at Palmdale School District and confirmed that they had a robust program already in place for providing lunches to children in the community and that they would be willing to bring the meals to the library for distribution. To me, that took care of the biggest potential obstacle for us participating in the program, that of providing the meals themselves. The next big challenge was an internal one, if you will, and I confess that it felt like one of the biggest risks I had ever taken as a library director. Still new to this library and this community, to not only allow, but to actually encourage families to come to the library to receive a meal in the library. What? I knew that there would be patrons and staff who would not like this idea, but I just felt that the benefits would so strongly outweigh the negatives that I moved ahead without really asking for permission. Now I'm happy to say that I and we would not think about not doing this program each summer. So while very chaotic and with no real program room in our small library, most of the library became more of a cafeteria and community center for about 2 hours every day, as we had 100 to 200 community members, depending on the day, come and eat in the library. And most of them had either never been in the library before or had not been there in years. We heard that constantly. They were so impressed with what was available in our little library. I will also mention that the teen intern program has been wonderful in many ways. And one of the unexpected benefits has been the strengthened bond and partnership that has evolved with the City of Palmdale Parks and Recreation Department. Let me elaborate a little bit. Because of how late we would receive word about funding for the program, this year is like heaven, having this much time to plan and prepare. I would not get the final word on funding until fairly late. And so the logistics of recruiting teen interns in a very short time frame were very problematic for us. So I reached out to the City Parks and Recreation Department because I knew that they conduct a large recruitment every spring to hire youth as lifeguards and program leaders for their summer programs. After receiving word from the state about funds being awarded to us for hiring youth interns, we were able to tap into the Parks and Recreation Department pool of newly hired youth program leaders which was a win-win for everyone. I also mention this because although we already had a very good relationship with Parks and Recreation, that relationship has been bolstered through the youth internship program. And a very tangible resulting benefit is that we have now been talking this year about expanding the pop-up summer lunch at the library program into 2 of the recreation centers next year. I don't think that conversation, frankly, would have happened if it were not for the groundwork that the youth internship program provided. I will just end by saying that one of the more impressive stats from our program. So the first 2 years, the district brought the meals to the library. We distributed them, and people ate in the library. The next 2 years during the pandemic lockdown, the school district pivoted into providing drive-through meal pickup. And so we pivoted with them, and we provided drive-through pickup. Went out there with our canopy and had staff out there to interact with the patrons as they drove through, pick up their meals, and they would interact with us. And then these last 2 years, we've moved to the pop-up program at these sites where the school district is providing the meals. Over the last 4 years, since we got into using some of the funds to purchase high quality, low cost scholastic books, we've distributed over 16,000 books, placed them in homes here in the community of Palmdale. So it is definitely rewarding. It is definitely a lot of work, but it has been worth it. And that is what I would share today.
Thank you, Robert.
Hi, everyone. I'm Allison Peters, Senior Library Manager in Crockett and Hercules in Contra Costa County. And I'm happy to be sharing about Crockett's Lunch at the Library program with my colleague, Carrie Kipp. Crockett Library is an outlet in the Contra Costa County library system, serving a community of around 3,400 people. If you've ever driven up Highway 80 to Sacramento and places north and seen the C&H Sugar Factory sign, that's where we are. We have a historic 700-ish square foot building. It's built in 1914, has a 32-person capacity. The library is open 20 hours a week and is staffed with 1 library assistant, Ms. Carrie Kipp, who is representing today, and 1 aide. We have 1 friend and a tiny programming budget. So how did we squeeze a summer of, I'm going to air quote, sold out lunch at the library meals and programs into this space? Next slide, please. So we did this with community. Crockett is a haven for artists, builders, makers, and they love their library. So we first started a campaign aimed at residents to ask them to reach out and share their skill, passion, project, craft, profession with us for programming, and we asked them to do it for free. The community responded very kindly and was very successful programming outreach. We invited locals in, like a children's book author, a parent advocate for children with disabilities, a comic book illustrator, an herbalist, and early childhood educators who designed a stay, play, and create program as part of their thesis project just for us at the library. So with the Lunch at the Library grant funding, we were able to keep this community input going for 2 months of programming at our library. And we were able to pay the educators who came out to help the library and then give kids some lovely lunch at the library all summer. Next slide, please. So our programming goals were to bring fun and then to bring folks out to the library. As with other branches around the state, in the previous couple of years, we'd had COVID programming, so we'd had take and makes and bag lunches. We wanted to remind people that we were there, that we had this robust programming and free lunch at the library. So lunch was served twice a week. Wednesdays, we did summer reading, crafts, and games, and then Fridays were our big fun program days. We also used funding from the grant to purchase things like Lego 3-in-1 set, Crayola Colors of the World, which have colors in different skin tones to represent a diverse group of people, and supplies to make seed balls. And one of our favorites, our Kickoff Friday program, was a DIY fairy garden, which we'll talk more about in a bit. So we posted like crazy on our social medias and our Crockett's residents only Facebook. We shared flyers around town and relied heavily on word of mouth. We were able to kick off with our first program, the DIY Fairy Gardens, which I'm going to let Carrie Kipp jump into. And Carrie might not be able to unmute down there. There you go.
Hello. And so the majority of I'm Carrie Kipp at Crockett Library, and the majority of our programs, as Allison said, were featured local artists, which was really super exciting. And it got all of the community excited too. They're like, that's my neighbor. So Fairy Gardens were our kickoff, and attendance far exceeded our expectations. We were actually blown away because Allison said, you know, it's a little bitty space, and 72 people showed up. Thankfully, Fairy Gardens inspired the spirit of cooperation. So patrons shared the supplies and we were able to accommodate everyone, which was wonderful. And every family received a backyard fairy garden book for their home library. Then we had our first local person. It was a local artist, and she brought all of these wonderful flowers and mason jars and guided everybody through creating the participants through creating their own floral arrangement in these mason jars. And they took them home, of course, and festooned them with ribbons there too. The next was art camp, and we have a resident graphic artist, illustrator, and she went through it, taught everybody how to create their own characters and storyline. And it was really exciting too, watching little kids with what's going on in their little minds, the things that they were creating. And then paint party with another person, a local painter, and she gave step-by-step guidance to the young artists. And in this case, they created their one-of-a-kind masterpiece, which was a smiling cow, because we have cows all throughout in the hills by Crockett. The last one was exciting excavations, and a resident gemologist provided these cool little excavation blocks, and they had shark teeth in them, gems and fossils, and they got to take them home. That was the one where I wish that I were 7 years old because I seriously wanted to do it. Next slide, please. And how did we do it? Well, we asked patrons to register online or call. And so that was really important to make sure that we were able to get everybody in and not turn people away. So we stressed on flyers and social media that registration was required for the program. Seating was limited. The other important thing, if anybody's ever doing a registration, is to let people know that it's for the kids, not the adults. They don't need to, because I found that there were like 3 spots in a program that an adult had registered for, and we got that straightened out. But that was just a key point, especially when we're dealing with a small space. When we contacted people, I did it on Thursdays for the Friday programs and asked them to let us know whether or not they were still planning on participating. And they were so awesome. They would say, oh, you know what, we forgot about that. And emphasized in the email that, you know, to please get back to us if they are, so that we could free that spot up for another patron, because there was a waiting list and people were really great about it. So that was wonderful. And because we have a small space, people, we did ask people that only one parent come, and that everybody was really good about that too, because they wanted to make sure that as many people were able to participate. If, you know, since we did say that there were 32 people, and then sometimes we got more people that that showed up. Contra Costa County has 6 other locations, so we referred patrons to other branches if we did reach maximum capacity. And we did reorganize the library, so we had all the kids in one space, and then we had benches so parents could peek over and watch to see what their kids were doing, so they weren't separate. So it was still like a family occasion. And to Allison.
So for the lunches, we worked with a local group, Sodexo School Services, to provide lunches for 25 plus kids on Friday. We had a little bit less. We had around 10 or 15 come on Wednesdays. And we always made sure that we had extra lunches just in case people walked up, because we had space for the programs, but we wanted to make sure everyone got lunch that needed it. And one of the tips is make sure that you stay in close contact with your lunch provider if you can, because that proved very, very helpful for us. We also included a fun recycling activity as part of our lunch at the library learning, so that when they were done with lunch, kids recycled their food and they knew where it went, and everybody kind of had a fun time with putting things in the recycling bags. So our final tips and tricks, again, talk to your lunch provider, get to know them. We were lucky to get people's cell phones. So if we knew people were coming in for lunch and we didn't have enough, we could call Sodexo and they brought some over right away. They were extremely helpful, and just making that connection made all the difference.
And request that the lunches come in cooling containers. So we had such a small refrigerator. We wanted to make sure that it was safe for the kids. So they were able to do that for us.
It's very helpful because we couldn't have kept it otherwise. And they brought hot food in a warm container. We're wrapping up. Thanks, Kate. Thank you. Be flexible, debrief after programs like we did, and be willing to, and able to revise as necessary for maximum efficiency and enjoyability.
Work with your library system and other branches to source things like extra tables and chairs.
And finally, just use your community. We really found that there's a ton of people out there, as you probably know, who love libraries and are more than willing to help out with good services, programs, and things. So for the Fairy Gardens, we asked the pizzeria to provide those little things that go in the middle of the pizza, and that was our tables. We got corks from the winery for mushrooms, all sorts of good things. So be creative, work with your community, and have fun at lunch at the library. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie and Allison.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dawn Vest. I'm the branch manager at the Greenfield Library of Monterey County Free Libraries. We also shorten it as MCFL. So MCFL operates 17th branch libraries, 2 bookmobiles, and also a library by mail and a literacy program. You can see that we're spread out throughout Monterey County, from all the way from Pajaro to Parkfield. So next slide, please. So our lunch team consists of the assistant director, the Soledad branch manager, and the Greenfield branch manager. And of course, the program wouldn't be able to run as well if we didn't have all of the other branch managers and staff participating and helping out too. So the reason I kind of call out the lunch team is if anybody might be on the fence about trying this grant or participating in this grant and saying, oh, well, we don't have a specific person that can do it, whether you sort of manager or whatever, is anybody really can do it. And I mean, it is so worth any amount of work that you put into it. You get out tenfold just in the seeing the kids being social, seeing them happy and eating, knowing that you're making an impact. The resources that we get from the grant, as well as the partnerships and the collaborations that you make. I mean, it is just an amazing program. And the team that runs the grant is amazing. Yes, I do have to say that. And so just getting on to that, 15 sites in MCFL served 14,053 meals from June 6th to August 12th. And each year we are growing and trying to. When we first started 8 years ago, the first 2 years it was optional. And our assistant director actually went out and served meals and picked up lunches. And she saw how important it was and the great impact it was making. So at that point, she had determined that it was mandatory that we should at least serve meals or do pop-up sites at community meal sites. And of course, in the beginning, there was a little bit of resistance about how can we do this during the summer? We're busy, short-staffed, whatever. But now at the end of the lunch at the library, we do surveys and all of the branches are completely on board and say what a great program it is and how happy they are to have it. So even in the beginning, if you get a little bit of resistance, believe me, it's so worth it. It is so worth it. Enrichment activities were offered to families each day of the meal service for a total of 1,178 programs. We did 3D printing, VR, sublimation printing on mugs, and just a lot of enhancement activities. The kids absolutely loved it, as well as the parents. Pop-up programming, 13 locations, serve 39 sites, providing a total of 3,331 programs. And pardon my stuttering, I apologize. And our Farm to Summer program, we had 8 locations, provided a total of 1,466 programs and or books to build home libraries that were tied to the programming elements. And we also participated in the libraries as conveners, part of the innovation, which we'll talk about more next week. But one of our goals of that program was to be able to provide food for adults at meal sites. And that's kind of what I'm going to focus on in my next couple of slides. Next slide, please. So the importance of providing food for adults, we found that some kids won't eat if their parent isn't eating. So that kind of was a little bit challenging or problematic, or the parents also need food just as much as the kids do. So we're going to talk about some of the ways of how we did it. And we had the kids make it with Play-Doh. Just kidding. The salt content in the Play-Doh really kind of hikes blood pressure. So we ex-nayed that idea, but this was an enhancement activities that the kids absolutely loved. So getting onto that community garden, which was part of our Farm to Summer, is we created a community garden, and we also spoke with the food bank, Brighter Bites, and also local stores and produce companies. And next slide, please. So this is the community garden that we started right outside of the Greenfield Library, and we had the kids help plant, cultivate, and also harvest the food. With the food, we were also able to, if you see on the right-hand side, to make little cups for the adults, like veggie bowls with either salsa or ranch dressing. And it was really sweet. Some of the kids, when they were putting like the tomatoes in the little bowls for the adults, would come by and say, I helped grow those tomatoes. And that just really touches your heart. So next slide, please. We also partnered with the Taylor Farms and local grocery stores, and they provided ready-made salads either in the bowl or in the package. And the adults were able to eat along with the children at the meal sites. We were able to feed 450 adults received ready-made salads during the meal site service. And again, a lot of great partnerships were formed being able to do this, and a lot of happy people. So next slide, please. So we partnered with the Monterey County Food Bank, and we were able to, they were able to provide 23,779 pounds of produce to families distributed. And the pictures here, you can see the Monterey County Food Produce truck and the families being able to partake of it. And then also like just the produce and the salads that they were able to give us, that we were able to give out to families. So that was very rewarding. This grant is one of my favorite grants, and it's just for so many levels, just because it obviously expands on what the libraries are. We have a lot of people that come in and didn't know the services that the library provides, and that's always a really nice thing. But it's also, you always get thanked. You know, I mean, so if anybody ever says this is a thankless job, try lunch at the library. I guarantee it won't be a thankless job. So that's all I have.
Thank you so much, Dawn.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Ikaza. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Education Initiatives Librarian for Sonoma County Library. We had 7 libraries serving lunch this summer from June 12th to August 4th. We had the ability this year for the first time to hire 14 teen interns, and we're really excited to bring the youth development piece to our program for the first time. Enrichment activities were offered to families each day of meal service, and the largest scale activity that was executed by the teen interns was the Money Smart school supplies store that I'll talk about at the end. Next slide, please. So primarily what I'm going to be sharing with you today is the youth development part of what we did, because it was different and new for us, and I think it was quite successful, but we do have room for improvement for sure. You see there on the left, the slide that we used on Instagram to promote this job opportunity to youth. We used all of our different social medias, including email to secondary school teachers, to promote this opportunity. The opportunity was posted to CalOps, which is an online jobs portal that most public agencies in the state use, like firefighters and police departments. But the reason I point that out is because we wanted the teens to have as close to real, quote unquote, real opportunity to practice applying for a job online as possible. So this is the same portal that our staff use. Any, librarian level job, this is the same portal that all staff use to apply for jobs. So we wanted the teens to have that experience. The posting was up for 3 weeks, which in hindsight was too long because we had 146 applicants for 14 positions. So we're going to fine tune how we recruit next year to make fewer disappointed teens and more meaningful interview opportunities for teens that are invited to interview. Another note for next year is we're developing a tip sheet for applicants. We want to make sure that teens know a couple of things. One is that they use a non-school email address. There are laws that prevent libraries from emailing kids at school, and a lot of teens don't know that. And also, most of the kids that applied that we wanted to call to invite them to interview, they did not have an email we could use, and they also did not have a functioning voicemail box. They gave us a phone number that, went to a voicemail that didn't work. So a lot of teens just need those couple tips before they apply for a job. Next slide, please. So once we got those teens in hand, we onboarded them as full library employees, and they went through a whole series of trainings. You can read all the different ones there. Some of this was offered in the beginning of their onboarding period, and some of it was scheduled throughout the summer. So they would serve lunch on a day, and then in the afternoon, after lunch was cleaned up, they would have a webinar about a vision board session, or they would have leadership skills training, or they would have wellness at work session. We also had them do presentations that they had to record for our governing body. We put together this whole video of all of them talking about their experience, and many of them were really freaked out about this public speaking. Just recording a 1-minute statement was too much for a lot of the kids to even imagine. So we had a session of public speaking skills to help them think about, positive self-talk and all these things to help them kind of get over some of the public speaking fear that they had. The result is this lovely video that I believe Kayla's going to post soon to folks that can find it when looking at innovation grant ideas. And so you'll be able to see it at some point soon is what I'm getting at here. Also in next year, we want to make sure that we have an interview skills class in the spring before the job opens so that folks can have the opportunity to practice interviewing before they interview for this job. And also, oh yeah, thank you. Kayla put it in the chat. And we did schedule a resume and cover letter session for teens this year, but it had to be canceled due to, COVID and a variety of issues that came up. So we didn't end up doing it. Next slide, please. So the teens, we recruited them, we had them in hand, we trained them, and then what did they do? Of course, they served lunch, just like all of your staff and any interns that you may have had served lunch. But the day-to-day enrichment activities were a lot of work, and they created some of their own enrichment activities. The culminating movement around all this enrichment was the Money Smart School Supplies store. So you see the photos here on the left is an actual storefront that one of our branches designed and put this together. That is real wood paneling they put on the wall to make it look like a store. That standee photo op thing that looks like a little critter, that's Otto. He's our mascot, Otto the otter. And you see on the right, one of our interns handing the change to this little child shopper. That's one of the stores they set up. Next slide, please. So the Money Smart School Supplies store was a real shopping experience that the teens set up with tangible paper money for kids in school-age kids all the way from first entering kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, that they could practice shopping with real money and budgeting, figuring out what could they afford to get at the school supply store. Did they have enough money for the zipper pulls to make them with the button machine? Did they want to decorate their backpacks? Could they afford to buy the supplies to decorate their backpacks? So it was a budgeting and shopping experience for kids. Next slide, please. Here's the social media slide that we used to promote this opportunity. We also did have little funny money printed that has Otto's face on it instead of George Washington. It has Otto's face on it. Each child was given a little packet of 40 Otter bucks to budget and spend. They rented the button maker to create little zipper pulls. This was a huge hit. If you don't have a button maker in your library, I strongly encourage you to look into getting one. There's a lot of things you can make with it that aren't sharp, pokey things. So we did not have the kids making buttons. They were making zipper pulls with it so they wouldn't hurt themselves. And then they rented the art supplies as well. So they had to learn how to budget all of that. Next slide. I want to just read you a quote from a parent. And the most important thing here I'm going to say is in the photo. It's dead center, this little girl with her bonnet on. If you just need a smile today, there it is, that little girl with her bonnet. And in the foreground, we have this young man counting out his OtterBucks to figure out, can he afford, an extra folder or whatever. So parents are invited to attend the Money Smart School Supplies event with their kids. And this mother realized something that she didn't know before about her child. What was so shocking to me is that my younger daughter can count much higher than I knew. When I practice counting with her at home, it doesn't seem to stick. But at today's Money Smart event at the library, it really felt like her counting skills stuck. Thanks for a great counting program and back to school supplies. Next slide. So that's what a parent said about the Money Smart activity. I have tons and tons more narratives and comments. If anyone wants to hear more, I've got tons. But what did the interns say about their experience? This first one is, this is my first job. I've never worked before. Imagine having that person in your care. It meant so much to us that we got to shepherd these new employees. I've only volunteered in other places, so I did not know what to expect. I have made connections to staff that work here, which is so amazing. Somebody else said that working in the library made them consider a library career. They weren't sure what to major in college, but in the future, they were considering being a librarian. And this last one, they all got Serve Safe certification. It's not required to serve lunch to have that, but it is a professional development tool. And this student said, I learned a lot about food and the dangers of handling food with no training. As boring as this sounds, I also learned to set up a bunch of tables quickly, as well as put them away. Before, I wouldn't know how to set one up and would have had someone assist me. I'd say that I also became more confident in speaking Spanish. My first language was Spanish. And as soon as I learned English, that's all I would speak and lost all memory of my native language. My pronunciation and grammar are what I struggle with the most, and talking to Hispanic parents has helped me a lot. I just thought that was lovely because she earned $17.20 an hour. She got all this training, she did a job, and yet she felt like she was receiving as well in the experience. So that's all I have to share. My contact will be at the end of this presentation, but I strongly encourage everybody to please get in touch with me. If you want PDFs of, handouts, flyers, you want program proposals for Money Smart Week, school supplies, any of that kind of stuff, I'm super happy to share it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carmen Latona Adams, and I'm a branch manager with San Mateo County Libraries. I'll be doing this presentation with Irma, and she'll introduce herself in a few slides. So San Mateo County Libraries is a 13-branch library system in the county of San Mateo. And as you can see, it is pretty far-ranging all the way up north to Brisbane, as far south as East Palo Alto, and then as far west as the coast side of Half Moon Bay. So our service area is wide, and as a part of the county library system, we also provide services to unincorporated areas. Our meal service sites for summer 2023 were East Palo Alto and North Fair Oaks, though in previous years it also included Half Moon Bay. North Fair Oaks and EPA have similar cultural demographics, serving a large Spanish-speaking population, with a quarter of their population being children under 18. Next slide. Unlike previous years, we decided to use lunch at the library funds to drastically increase programming at these two meal sites, as well as community meal sites, to provide impactful bilingual, nutritional, and educational summer experiences. In previous years, we used the funds to help build home libraries and provide STEM kits as a complement to our meal service hours. This year, North Fair Oaks and EPA wanted additional programming, specifically bilingual in Spanish, giveaway books focused on gardening, cooking, and hiking, as well as a replenishment of their seed library supplies. So in this picture, you will see our staff at East Palo Alto and their typical meal service layout. The community meal sites we served were outside of EPA and North Fair Oaks because we wanted to be wide ranging. So Pescadero Elementary on the coast side, Lomita Park in San Bruno, and Hatch Elementary in Half Moon Bay. For EPA, their meal sites were once a day, Monday through Friday, 3:15 to 4:15. And North Fair Oaks wanted to be super ambitious. And this summer they did 2 meal times, 12 to 1 and then 3:30 to 4:30. Next slide.
Hi, my name is Irma, and I work for the San Mateo County Libraries, and I'll be talking about our programming. So when planning our programming, we wanted to be responsive to the cultural backgrounds found in our communities. So we provided a diverse selection of additional programming, such as a bilingual presentation of Aztec dancers, a bilingual presentation of Mexican folkloric dance groups, and fun animal-related programming. So in the past, we had success with petting zoos and the Wild Mind animal shows, and we knew those programs would bring a large audience regardless of the time. And the additional programs were planned during meal service times to further promote the meal service and also introduce new families to library services. We also brought fun and engaging programs to community meal sites to connect children to their local libraries and encourage summer learning. And we have some photos of the programs this summer. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this was the first year that we applied to and received Farm to Summer funding. And with the funding, we wanted to provide more bilingual programming as well as engaging hands-on summer experiences. So we reached out to Andrea Pons, which is a Washington-based cookbook author, to conduct an author talk and cook-along program. So her cookbook is called Mamacita and is filled with recipes that have been passed down through the generations of women in her family and is a tribute to her Mexican heritage. And in it, she weaves in her family history and her journey to gaining her parents' citizenship. So lunch at the library's funding paid for her speaker fees, her transportation, and hotel costs. We also used the grant funds to purchase the supplies and ingredients needed for the program ahead of time. So during the program, she spoke about her process of writing the cookbook and then led the families into a demo of making pico de nopales. And then building off the success of that program, we also partnered with Fresh Approach to bring a cooking demo into the libraries. And lastly, in partnership with Casa Círculo Cultural, we brought kids from North Fair Oaks into 2 different working branches in Pescadero. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so for the field trips, we visited Pie Ranch and Harley Farms Ranch in Pescadero with the children of Casa Círculo. CCC is a nonprofit based in North Fair Oaks, serving families with summer and after-school childcare. CCC is very close to the NFO library and often brings the kids to the library for special events, to partake in meals, and also check out books. And then at Pie Ranch, the children learned about sustainable agricultural practices and also how to use a mill. And at Harley Farms, children learned about dairy goats and the process of making cheese. So lastly, we used Farm to Summer funds to create a new seed library at the North Fair Oaks Library and replenish supplies for the seed library at East Palo Alto. And the photo on the right-hand side is a picture of the community garden plot at the nearby Friendship Park in North Fair Oaks. The library used the seeds from the seed library to start seedlings with the public, planted them in the community garden, and then they will be harvesting the crop as part of the library's ongoing effort to encourage nutritional literacy. Okay, next slide. And I'll hand it back over to Carmen.
So we learned a lot this summer. Like with anything to do with summer, there were some last minute adjustments, some performers canceling, date changes, all that stuff. Some valuable lessons we learned with the core programming is, of course, scheduling these programs during meal service time is the best practice. And we saw that it would foster a positive sense of community. For North Fair Oaks specifically, it's a newer branch in the county system. So we were trying to build up a strong sense of community and belonging to that library. And we saw that doing super fun and engaging programs like petting zoos during that time would bring in more folks who would then learn about this tiny little library in North Fair Oaks. We also learned it was very staff intensive and we needed additional support to maintain doing programs during meal service hours. And we did end up using interns, so we had different funding to support that, but we highly recommend the use of teen interns. For Andrea Pons, the author event, we purchased copies of her book, and it was very well received. The only hiccup for her event was just figuring out the logistics of cooking in a non-kitchen, which is the public library. The library is not set up. Our library is not set up for cooking demos, and so there was a lot of things to figure out there. Fresh Approach is a mobile farmers market that regularly visits North Fair Oaks and EPA. So their cooking demos were really well received, but we had to plan them with a really short turnaround time. And so they didn't have as big of an impact as the Andrea Pons one. But after both events, we received a lot of positive feedback from the community that they wanted more nutritional education programs, especially ones where the presenter was bilingual and was presenting a dish that was culturally relevant to the Spanish-speaking population of North Fair Oaks and EPA. For seed libraries, we wanted to expand our purchasing range away from Amazon.com, and we found Grow Organics. We were able to buy them in bulk there. Though I've learned that you should try to purchase your seeds early. So if you want to buy seeds for next year, you should start trying to look in November, because they start to sell out very early as gardeners start to plan, because gardeners plan super early. For the community garden, it was a great opportunity for us to partner with the San Mateo County Parks Foundation. They lent us that plot in the community garden, which is very close to North Fair Oaks, and it's really grown our partnership, and we've been doing a lot of things collaboratively together. For the field trips to Pie Ranch and Harley Farms, it was logistically complex to coordinate, because it was a matter of getting the buses, figuring out the lunches, how to transport the lunches, getting the kids to come, as well as who's going to chaperone the kids. So it was a lot of that back and forth. But at the end of the day, once it was all done, the day of was smooth sailing, and it was so much fun. Those two, the top picture and then the bottom left picture, are ones of the field trip. And I just want to point out the little boy who's like cowering, kind of in a funny way, away from the chicken. He's never met a chicken before, and he was kind of scared. But at the end of the day, he was super excited and got to pet it. And it was just great to be able to bring a lot of these children who would otherwise not be exposed to the agriculture and farm into that environment, so that they could learn where their food comes from. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen and Irma.
So, hello, I'm Lisa Furneaux-Haynes. I'm a librarian with Oceanside Public Library. And this slide's just a quick photo of a community container garden at one of our sites. And it was taken towards the end of the summer lunch program here in 2023. And I'll talk more about the container garden in a bit. Change slides. This last summer, 2023, was the 7th summer that we provided lunch at the library for our community. Our first year, which is the top two slides, it was very small. We only provided lunch at one library site. We had no pop-up sites, very, very few seating options. As you can see, they're sitting on the ground. And we offered mostly, really simple passive activities like blocks and coloring that the staff could really easily facilitate. Now, 2023, which is the slide at the bottom, we had 3 library sites, several pop-up sites, interactive themed enrichment activities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But to be honest with you, that first year was so much more work on me and on staff than the last year, the 2023 was. And the difference is the grant and what we were able to do with the money from the grant. Next slide. So I'm a huge supporter of farm to library initiatives and the power of collaborations. In 2022, I set out to find a small farm here in Oceanside that could provide us, the library, with produce for one of the programs that I had in mind. And luckily, there is a farm that is here in Oceanside that we were able to collaborate with. And that you can see it's Community Roots Farms. And the woman in the brown shirt bending over, that is Bianca, and she's who runs the Community Roots Farms. And when we met and talked about the program that I was thinking of and programs that we wanted in the future, it became apparent that our vision of what programming can be in the community was very similar. So Cinderella story, it worked out so well for us. So Bianca not only embraced the enrichment activity that we had, but expanded on them in ways that brought value to our community. So how do you find somebody to collaborate with, or even someone to hire to come and provide those lunchtime enrichment activities? Because the grant can cover the cost of them coming and providing the activities. Here are just some words that I put into search engines, and underneath it are some live links to what those searches brought up. There is a lot of information out there. Just think outside the box. It doesn't have to be huge and overwhelming and grand. It could be something very simple. And really hiring Bianca was the simplest because they did everything. Next slide. So the produce that I was looking for in 2022, this was the idea that I had. I had an idea about a way to get kids to try new fruits and vegetables, which in hearing parents talk, that was something they were always talking about. How do they get their kids to try something new? Here's our tasting cart science experiment carts. And with this, kids taste fresh, local, organic, seasonal produce and get rewarded with a cute fruit or vegetable sticker or bookmark. You can even see in the bottom left-hand side, one of our interns cutting up the clean fruit and preparing it for lunch. The grant, again, paid for everything you see here on these slides. Through funding with the grant, we were able to purchase the cart, the boxes, the produce, everything. This program is so easy to run, and it really builds excitement for the families. They couldn't wait to come back and see what produce was going to be offered the next week. And seeing kids even trying to taste an onion because they were so excited to try and taste everything. It's amazing. Only one kid actually swallowed the piece of onion. Most of the others spit it out. So next slide. So thanks to the grant, I was able to pay the farm to create 45-minute long educational, interactive enrichment activities and facilitate those activities at each of the lunch sites. And that they did weekly. And you can see the beginning of the container gardens on these slides as well. We have community container gardens at each of the library sites, and they're still going on now. We hope to expand on this idea and place gardens at local resource centers too. Families love to come and water the plants and see how the plants grow. It's really created some adorable and interesting conversations between parents and kids. And again, this is an easy, passive type program that the community has really embraced. And all of this is grant funded. So now we're getting ready to plant. You saw the larger plants on the first slide. We're getting ready now to plant some fall and winter produce in the coming weeks. We're excited about that. Next slide. So a lot of kids in the community right around the library don't have an opportunity to go away to sleepaway camp or have any camping type opportunities presented to them. So we wanted to provide an elementary school age kids in the neighborhood an opportunity to have their own camp experience. And we were able to do that with no cost to the family. We came up with Plant Camp. We couldn't think of a cuter name, and I'm sure we will in the future, but we had plant camp for this year, and it ran for 5 consecutive days. And other than making sure that the room was available each day, the farm did all the work, all the planning, all the daily setup, and all the cleanup. The week-long program only took 1 staff person on our side to be there and, you know, be the library person. Again, the grant supplied the means for everything else, including paid interns, which I'm going to get to in a minute. You can see in some of the pictures here, the kids loved getting to use a knife and a cutting board to cut up their fruits and vegetables, and seeing what those cut vegetables look like under a real microscope. They learned where our food comes from, how to grow food, how to harvest the seeds from the food, and the importance of composting and recycling. Next slide, please.
Lisa, just want to give you your 1-minute warning.
Okay, thank you. So this will be my last slide. I just wanted to let you know that with the grant, we were able to hire 10 teen interns. 3 of the interns we rehired from past programs, and they actually held supervisory roles. We've been able to do so much for our community because of this grant. It is not a scary thing. There's so many people that would love to help you make this a possibility for your libraries as well and your communities. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lisa. I just want to point out that Lisa had the same suggestion as Rachel is remember their teens. They don't check emails or phone messages. Lisa found that texting worked best for her. That's a good tip. Okay, thanks, Lisa. And I'll pass it to Orange County.
Hi, everyone. I am Samantha Smith, and I'm the programs manager for OC Public Libraries. Our library system here in Orange County, we have 32 branches, and we host lunch at the library at 6 of those branches. This summer, in summer of 2023, we served over 16,000 lunches. So we're super proud of that many meals were served. Today, we're really going to focus on our farm to summer events, which I thought were amazing. I am in love with that component, and also our summer author series. We really wanted to kind of lean into the idea of libraries as a destination, a place to go. And so that's why we were so grateful to Lunch at the Library, because it really made it a whole day. You could come, you could spend the day with us, you could see a performer, you could see an author, you could eat lunch there and just spend the day with us. So that was the main kind of guide for when we were planning this summer. On the left-hand side, you're going to see one of our kickoffs for the Farm to Summer events, and every library is going to look a little different. So we have 6 library sites that are serving lunch, and one of the sites is Tustin, and it's a 32,000 square foot building. It's huge. We can have a ton of performers, a ton of programs. We also have one of the smaller Garden Grove sites, and that site's like 5,000 feet. So it's very small. It's, and not every lunch service is going to look the same at each of our locations. And so on the left is our kickoff for Farm to Summer. It was a beautiful event, had a face painter, we had a performer, we did strawberry tastings, we did all these different great things. And on the right is at San Juan Capistrano, that was Lucky Diaz. We were so excited. He was one of our summer author performers, and he is a singer, songwriter, musician, but also an author. And if you go to the next slide, we'll see some more. So on the left-hand side is our farm stand tasting. This year, our school district were our summer partners. So our meal service was provided by our school districts. We have, I think, 6 locations and 5 school districts that we work with, because one of them serves both locations. And our school districts were amazing meal partners. We told them our ideas, and they said, we gave them at the beginning of the summer a flyer of our events and programs and our ideas of what we were going to be having, and they just ran with it. They were fully on board to be partners and really present it. So our school district was very into the idea of the Farm to Summer and the tasting. So we set up this farm tasting stand, and they were able to do strawberries and chocolate dipped strawberries. They provided a meal card So you'll see here like the strawberry spinach salad, and everyone went home, they got to taste it, and then they also got to go home with those meal cards if they wanted to make it at home. On the right is another Farm to Summer event. That was an event where we actually used a Charlie cart. If anybody has a Charlie cart, they're super cool. I love the Charlie cart. So we have a Charlie cart, and it has power, it has water, and you can actually cook right up front. So the kids were able to cook with us, and we did an herb butter. So you can see the herbs kind of there. The kids are lining up. They got to come up and actually press, make the herb butter. We also made a lemonade. So you can see that being served right there. It was an herb infused lemonade, just kind of inspiring people to grow their food and be kind of creative. That same day, we hosted the Master Gardeners. They talked about growing food and growing herbs and vegetables in small spaces, even like, apartments, and growing them in pots, and how can you do that? And everybody got to go home with a small plant. If you go to the next slide, you'll see some more ways where we kind of engage with our community partners again. Yeah, okay. So this was the coolest thing. This was the coolest thing ever. So I'm really excited about connecting kids. Let's see, go back a little bit. Yeah, there we go. This was the coolest thing. I'm in love with connecting kids with books. And it's like, yes, I love Lunch at the Library, but I also want to connect kids with books. So one of my favorite things is, helping build home libraries and getting books in the hands of kids. But the cool thing that we did this year was, let's do a summer author series and see if we can get those authors to come out and meet the kids. And so we hosted the author, Lucky Diaz. He is the author of The Palatero Man. And we told our school district that we were thinking of that. This was, I think, Capo Unified School District down in San Juan Capistrano. We told them that, and they said, that's amazing. We love that idea. We will provide the popsicles. We're going to provide, and so the staff member is the one with the scarf on her head, and she's serving, but the meals, the popsicles, they were all provided by the school district. And I was just, I thought that was so amazing. They not only did they want to serve lunch that day, but they wanted to contribute to our event. So the same day that we hosted Lucky Diaz, we had lunch, we served popsicles, and then we invited them to our Paletta land. So they got to play a life-size board game until it was time to come into the main event when we hosted Lucky Diaz. And we had, I want to say, almost 300 people that came for that event. So yeah, it was really cool. Not every library can accommodate that. So you might see some that's a face painter, and we had to really take that in mind. I would say that was one of our challenges, is being mindful of where to put those programs. And so as these authors started to say yes to us, we had to be really mindful of where would be a good venue, because we wanted it to be comfortable. We wanted to be include everybody. And that's like my biggest fear, is having to turn people away. None of our programs do registration. They're all free. They're all open to the public. So we don't know how many people will come, but judging by, the author, you can kind of think how many will come, and it would be a lot. So this was one of our highlights. I think it was a really true crossover with our partnership with the school district as our meal provider, partnering with our summer author series to build those home libraries, but also allowing them to meet the author. If you go to the next slide, you'll see some more, I believe. Yeah, so this is some photos from the event. It was amazing. You can see all the kids. We did give out the books to build the home libraries. We were able to provide books to everybody and host an author. And that was really one of the things that we did differently this year. Was, we had done in the past to give out books. We had done different types of things, but being able to bring the authors in was something new and unique. And I would love to do that forever. It was just so inspiring to see kids be able to come out and meet the author and bring it full circle of, how amazing to be able to come in and ask questions and really make it a special day for them. I think there's another slide as well. Yeah, so we also hosted Jennifer Holm, author of Baby Mouse. I love Baby Mouse. And so I was so excited when she said yes. And same thing, we did this as part of the Lunch at the Library. Come eat lunch with us and then stay for the author. And we thought, let's make it a whole event. Again, libraries as a destination, let's make it an event. And so we did books to build the libraries, but we also were like, we want to become Baby Mouse. So we made crowns, we did a craft, an activity, we served, we served lunch, and then we did lemonade as well. And the author was like, this is so great. She herself was like, this is great. You should market this. You should tell the publicist that you're doing this. So I just can't I was really proud of our summer author series. We also hosted, I think on the next slide, you'll see we hosted Suzanne. Yeah, we hosted, this is Suzanne Lang and Max Lang. They're the author and illustrator of Grumpy Monkey. That was another event that we did. And even the publicists and authors were like, this is crazy how many people are coming out. And I'm like, they're here. They're here for the author, but they're also here for lunch. It was just, they started to spend the day, and people started coming up to me at these events and being like, where's the next one? Where's the next one? I had been serving lunch at the library. I was previously the branch manager at Tustin Library, which is one of our lunch sites. So I saw lunch at the library at one location. So this summer transitioned to a new role as programs manager, and I got to see lunch at the library at all the different sites. And it was just so impressive to see how each site is a little bit different. And depending on the space, you can do different things, but that it's all kind of the same. People are just so excited to be a part of it. And I think what made our program special this summer was bringing the authors together with the meal and giving out those books, but also letting them meet the author. So this is Max Lang on the left. He drew an illustration in every single one of those books. So the line for signing was like hours long because he drew a personal illustration in every single book instead of just a signing. And people were there. I mean, I was thinking, are they going to leave? Are they going to stay? But no, they were with us for the full day because they wanted to get that illustration, and they were so patient, and the authors were so gracious. And people were so amazed that they were going to be leaving with this, personalized thing. And so we were just so excited about this program. And you can see the kids waving their hands, and they're so happy. And I think this is our final slide. But I just can't say enough about this program and how grateful I am for Lunch at the Library. It's such a beautiful program to be able to, feed people, but also feed their minds through these programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samantha. So that concludes our presentations. Thank you all so much. I know it felt a little rushed, but there's just so much good. So I'm gonna just turn it over to Rachel real quick. She's just gonna introduce our upcoming sessions before we head into our question section.
Yeah, I'm just going to give a quick reminder that 1 week from today, you will hear some more amazing, wonderful things that our innovation grantees have done. You're going to have a chance to ask them questions and network, ask about the experience of running an innovation grant, hear about their ideas, and it's going to be so great. We also have office hours coming up on October 10th, November 8th, and November 28th. We can help you with any aspect of your application. Any questions you might have, we can walk you through the process. We're always happy to help. And now I think we're going to have some questions from all of our presenters.
Yes, thank you. So there was a question, and if you want to contact anyone, here are all of their emails. You can best identify them by the @ and then it should say their library. So that's a helpful way to identify who's who. So one question in the chat, and if you all don't mind answering this in the chat, was for how many weeks did most programs run? Even if you are not a presenter, but you ran lunch at the library and you have an answer, if you can just go ahead and place it in the chat. If you'd like to turn your camera on, that would be great. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand or post it in the chat. It could be a question for any of our presenters or for our California team here. Thank you guys for answering those. Yes, Anaheim, I see a hand. Please go ahead and unmute yourself. We'd be happy to hear from you.
So my question is, I couldn't find this information on the application, but how many times do you have to have a meal site or a visitor program site, like, or for outreach? I've heard in the past years you have to visit at least 3 times to be considered for our funding, or is it just?
Yeah, so for a community meal site, when you're going out to a location, there's no hard and fast rule, but we do ask that you visit your community's meal site 3 times if you're able to. It's different for different locations, and we understand that sometimes that's not possible, but that's our suggestion to try it. Yes, Lisa.
I'll just add to that, your
Yes.
funding in the future is based on how many times you visit, how many interactions you have. So the more you do, the more money you'll have to continue to do the more good.
Okay, because I have a bookmobile, or I'm part of a bookmobile. So, I mean, sometimes we visit a site once or twice a month, maybe three if we're lucky, but usually it's like at least once. So it's kind of difficult to return to a site 3 times during the summer.
Yeah, so there's no like penalization if you're unable to, but like Lisa said, the more sites you visit and the more times you visit those sites, the more funding you'll receive. So if you say, well, I can only visit each site twice, but I'm going to 12 different sites, your funding will reflect that.
Okay. And just a quick
Yes.
clarification. Next meeting, we're going to meet about the innovation grant and what we can do with it potentially.
Yes, so the next session is all about the innovation grant. We're going to have libraries present what they've done, and we'll answer questions about what you can do with those funds.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you're very welcome. Thank you. Great. It looks like we have some more questions here. So will promotional mailers, social media still be an allowable expense this year? So yes, outreach is allowed. And the way that our budget will work is we will be presenting you with your funding amount, and then you will reply back with how you would like to spend that. If you have a large scale marketing idea, something similar to maybe what San Diego Public did, where you are like, oh my gosh, benches, that's what I want to do. Innovation might be a better option, so you can get a large chunk of money to really focus on that idea. The funding that you receive for your core should be enough to do regular standard outreach and marketing. But if you're wanting to do something kind of above and beyond, that's when the innovation is going to be a good choice for you. And it looks like we have lots of different answers for how many times people run their programs. And people run corresponding summer reading programs. Yeah, a lot of people do summer reading and lunch at the library at the same time. Some people market them together as well. Let's see. I'm not seeing any other questions in here.
And I will add, for those who are watching the recording later and not able to access the chat, that the average for lunch at the library sessions that's coming up in the chat is around 8 weeks. Some people do 4 to 6. One branch, it looks like, does 13 or 12. So it's really going to vary depending on your library's capacity, your meal sponsor, and what your school looks like. Some schools have shorter summers, some have longer ones. And Rachel has a question.
I would just add too that if you're thinking about an internship program, we learned the hard way that we needed to onboard those folks much earlier and get them oriented and do team building with them before meal service started, so that they could feel confident in their job that we're actually paying them to do. So we're actually building in a couple more weeks at the beginning and at the end of the program to have more get started and wrap up time with interns. So it's going to be a little bit tough because school will still be in session when we want to be onboarding them. We'll be doing finals when we want to be onboarding them, but if it's their job, then we'll figure it out together. But if people are asking about how long this goes, mid-May to mid-August, that's what we do.
Thank you, Rachel. Lisa, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just curious, for Contra Costa, when you guys did the registrations, did you open it up each week? Did someone register for the whole summer at the start? How did you handle that part of it?
That's a great question. So we had individual registration for each week of Friday programmings. Wednesday was just crafts and things, so that was open, but we opened it up maybe a couple of weeks in advance of each program. And we did see the same families that would come and register for each Friday program, which was lovely. But we really tried to spread the word and take registration over the phone, in person. We wanted to know how many people were coming, but also make it easy for people to sign up.
Thank you. Thank you, Allison. And I see we have a question from Fernando with Banning.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. For the farmer program, is it traditional farming, or we have a Native American museum that kind of does an agave roast? And if we were to have, like, I guess, native style of farming or agriculture. Would that also qualify for the program, or?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. There's no, it's whatever works best for your community. The goal is to connect families with local agriculture, food, farms, and nutritional education. So that would be amazing if that's something that's happening in your community. I'm sure that would be something that that you'd want to highlight. Thank you for asking that question. We have about 6 more minutes. If there's no more, oh, great, Anaheim, yes, please.
Hi. I have a few more questions.
Yes.
One, one of my libraries is situated right across from a school. So, and they do class visits every once in a while. Could we consider it a outreach event if we bring them to our library and we do a program like a farm to fresh or farm to table program? Could we consider that an outreach program or a community outreach? Sorry, I can't remember the terminology.
Yeah, so what we normally say is, like, if you're hosting meals at your library, we call that like a library meal site. And if you're going out to locations that are serving meals, we call that like a pop-up or community meal site. And what you really are thinking about is where and when are the meals being served, and how can your library support that or provide enrichment services. So if they're doing if they want to do a field trip over to the library and you guys are doing a meal service there, then you can also provide them programming or also do a tour of the library or also, you know, provide a story time. So that would be a great way to connect with your school. If they're serving meals over there, you can bring the services over to them or do the field trip before or after they're serving meals. And that would definitely connect to the lunch at the library service. Rachel or Lisa, do either of you have more to add?
No, I think that sounds great. Yeah, as long as it's a community meal site during the summer. Yeah, that sounds great.
Awesome. And then I know that this is more towards the innovation grant, but I saw that some of the presenters said they built gardens or things of that nature. Would that be possible through the innovation grant? Would that, like, asking us to help, like, because we're in a park. My branch is in a park, but we have a nice dirt patch that's just a dirt patch, and we want to try to reinvent that and try to grow maybe a garden for the patrons to use and learn how to grow things and that nature. Because I was really inspired by some of your presentations. Is that something that would be covered by that kind of grant?
So there are stipulations. Lisa, do you want to talk about the allowables for that? I'm thinking about installation versus like the little mobile gardens.
Yeah, if it's a structure that's like built into the ground and not movable, that's not an allowable expense with state funds. So you saw in Oceanside, like they had the little rolling container gardens. So that's like an example of, you know, how they made it work for their space. But you can do a community garden, but if you're like paying for, like, we're going to build a shed to store the tools in, that wouldn't be allowed with the grant funds. The tools you could buy with the grant funds, the seeds, the dirt, but it's kind of just that distinction of, like, if it's building something versus the supplies to support it. But you definitely can do a lot in terms of gardening, and there was lots of examples today. So
yeah,
right,
so some people, if you already have it like established, then you could buy the watering cans and the seed and the soil. Or if you have a friends group that's like, great, we want to, you know, make an above ground, or, you know, they want to build the structure for you, then the grant funds can be used to support that structure. Is that clear?
Yes, it is. And thank you so much. And also, I would like to thank the chat. I would like to thank Francesca for showing us that grant.
Yes.
In the chat. Really
Francesca's a wealth of knowledge.
I really appreciate it.
Could
And
I
yeah, that.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no.
I was just going to add that, you know, the core programming should be used for farm to summer features. And then the innovation would be if you're like, you know, this is going to go above and beyond. This is that larger scale. Because I know you were asking about the difference between the two. So the container gardens, a raised planter bed, things like that, that can all come out of your core program. But if you're like, we need to completely rethink how we're doing like the community garden, and we want to use it to feed the adults in our area and create a whole ecosystem of food in our area that's larger and it's going to go beyond the budget of your core program, that's when you would move into innovation. So it's those larger scale innovative efforts, and hopefully that made sense.
Yes, it does, and I really do appreciate you clearing that up. And yeah, thank you again for answering my questions.
You're welcome, Nancy. I love that idea. You can have a Boy Scout build you a planter as their Eagle Scout project. Yes, what a great way to connect with the community. So I'm just gonna thank you all one more time for presenting, and for those of you who are just attending, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And if you're watching this recorded, thank you for watching this. Please attend our session next week. And as always, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. And on the lunch team, we are lunch@library.ca.gov. Thank you all.